10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Greetings, my fellow Freemost sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Saturday, February 21st, 2026. This is episode 1940, questioning the Epstein Saga and FBI wins court ruling. Before I proceed, you can follow me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Looky Luck number 3, Looky Luck Roman 3 with the 3 eyes, or the Looky Luck Roman 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, and all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast or proton.me. If you're going to donate, go to PayPal.me or cash.app/Looky Luck number 3. Oh, man. So, hopefully everyone's doing great. Prepping up as usual, not panicking, talking to a good friend of mine, haven't seen in years, sharing information. It's all right. My dog's a little bit excited, but that's okay. And I remember the time he told me, I was tossing this info at him and was a little leery, claimed to be a conspiracy theorist. And my response was, a theory always has merit, not scientific law. He laughed and go, yeah, you're right on that. That's why I always tell folks to observe responsibly and see things a lot bigger than what it is. Like what's going on with the whole sex scandals, the rituals by Jeffrey Epstein. It's bigger than him. He's just another chess piece for the order. And many people still say he's alive in Israel. There's a claim that even Israel let sex offenders in their nation. Ain't that great? The Holy Land, right? Blasphemy 101. Watching some of the information, too, when some of these states like Maryland, Washington, and Maine said the police local authorities cannot help ICE. Well, it's backfiring. The county sheriffs have given them the big middle finger. Because truth of the matter is, folks, it is declared unconstitutional. Not just on a federal level, but the state, you can say. They don't have to cooperate. Because Article 4, Section 4 talks about the federal government has the authority to repel invasion. Very similar to trespassing, you can say, right? It's not a key open invitation by any means. It's not doesn't matter ethnical, it's ethical. So I've been watching some of the videos, reports on the local news stations in Maryland, and the sheriffs are telling it like it is, and it's legit. They have a lot more power than what you think. But all the folks out there believe the world's like Law and Order in New York. That's what happens when you watch the Idiot Box instead of doing a little homework. I'm not even a Diamonds and Silk viewer, but I was watching this one video clip. Actually, an interview that was on Rumble. The Right Side Network, it's called. I could be mistaken, but Diamond was it Silk? Yeah, she was had an interview with Richard Mack, who's a sheriff in Arizona. And he's president of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And he said on target. They can arrest politicians. A county sheriff in Minnesota, where Minneapolis is, can arrest the governor, lieutenant governor, and the attorney general. Even the sheriff in Miami-Dade County could shut Eileen Higgins down, who's the, quote, mayor of Miami. They don't want you to know this, folks. I have to admit, I did mingled with Enrique Tarrio, down-to-earth, humble man, from Proud Boys. We had a little chit chat. I remember him telling me he wanted to tell people he wanted to run for Congress. I recommended sheriff. His eyes opened up. I gave him all the facts. Even his brethren said, you know what, that's a damn good idea. But look at the obstacles he had to go through. What happened to him was wrong. I don't care if you like him or not. If you support him being unjustified, you're part of the problem, not the solution. You create a president that could happen to you or someone you support. Don't scream at Banshee and Heat if that happens. So that was like very good stuff out there. And of course, like I say, the mainstream garbage news, these politicians don't want you to know about the powers of a county sheriff. I always recommend everyone do a little homework. Even go to the CSPOA.org. Just look up Sheriff Richard Mack. I see him spoke many years ago with a friend of mine in Pompano Beach, Florida. And it was like, $10 just to pay the expenses. And he was very cool, man. Very humble, down to earth. Great to listen to. Even the deputy from Broward County was there just to make sure it's all peaceful. He was impressed. He goes, I like how he speaks. I enjoyed. He learned a lot too. And that's what we got to do, my friends. Plant the seeds. Make these individuals think. As always do, even on my shows, and I'm not perfect, and boldly admit that. If I have people to contemplate and share with others, I've done my job. I don't have to be a multimillionaire to do that, or have so many sponsorships. That's not my. That's why the reason why I've done this. Yeah, if I made money off podcasting, great. If not, that's just how it goes. But part of the volunteer community perspective, right? Yeah, so I'm just like, mellowed out right now. Hopefully everyone out there. Spring's coming pretty damn quick. February's just flying through. Yeah, George Washington's birthday is tomorrow. So do a little toast of homage for the first president of the Constitutional Republic of the United States. Oh, yeah. John Hanson was the first president of these United States. They don't tell you that in the history books. But as a Constitutional Republic, Washington was the first. He made his errors too, but he learned from them, of course. Compare these habitual scripts we have in D.C., demented clowns. Doesn't matter what party they're in. So I'm just like, just flowing with it right now. But I'm going to read a couple of articles I just looked up. Censored.news is pretty cool, so check it out. Mike Adams did that from naturalnews.com. They try to ban him on Facebook. That's the kind of people you want to support, right? Well, this one came out today, possibly yesterday, and released by freewestmedia.com. Something is not right about the Epstein Saga. We heard a lot about Virginia Giuffre, the poster girl of the Einstein sex trafficking of underage families. Came out today from the Free West Media. As it reads here, in 2009, Virginia Giuffre accepted $500,000 from Epstein to drop a lawsuit in terms of which forbade claims against other potential defendants. 13 years later, in 2022, Giuffre received an estimated $16 million from Prince Andrews in an in and out of court settlement in which he admitted to no wrong. For some reason, she was not required to keep the terms of the previous settlement, which she released other potential defendants. Little doubt her attorney smelled a large fee from a charge against Prince Andrew. Public accusations in a lawsuit would embarrass the royal family and result in a large out-of-court settlement, whether the charge was true or false. It is possible that the charge is false, but that $16 million was too much to walk away from. As lawyers understand, many settlements are extortions. The emphasis in the horror media is always at but the women were underage. Below is a map of middle-aged female sexual consent in the U.S. 50 states as of 2025. In 32 of the states, the age of female consent is 16 years old. In the 8 states, the consent age is 17 years old. And in only 10 U.S. states is the age consent of 18 years old. Unless Virginia Guthrie was a resident of one of these 10 states, she was not underage. Keep in mind that the alleged underage sexual events occurred 2 or 3 decades ago when an age of female sexual consent was lower. Possibly at the time the events are said to have occurred. No state had 18 years at the age of female sexual consent. In other words, the media insistence of an underage sex might be a hoax, and what we may be really dealing with is prostitution. Do we really believe that Virginia Guthrie, we see in the photo smiling and looking pleased with herself, standing together with Prince Andrew, was kidnapped and brought to Epstein's Island by force or coercion? What about the hundreds or thousands of other underage girls who were allegedly kidnapped and forced into sex trafficking? Is this a credible accusation? How does one manage a kidnapping operation of this magnitude? We can go further and inquire if the millions of pages of Epstein files and his income tax returns indicate income from the sex trafficking of hundreds of children. As I understand it from the reports from investigators of Epstein's sources of income, his main source of income was devising tax evasion schemes for a few clients. Still, we can go further. Virginia Guthrie's large settlement payments must have inspired others, and as there were allegedly so many rich and distinguished men who visited the alleged sex island, persons such as Bill Gates and former U.S. President Bill Clinton, why have only Epstein and Prince Andrew been targeted? A couple of large banks, Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan Chase, paid out $75 million, and U.S. $290 million to anonymous women, Jane Doe 1, for the unproven crime for providing Epstein with banking services that alleged facilitated his sex trafficking business. This seems to be a nebulous charge for which a legal basis is unclear, but an atmosphere of a witch hunt is understandable. In 2019, Time magazine reported that a judge allowed 23 women who claimed to be Epstein victims to speak in his court before he dismissed charges against Epstein. About half did so anonymously. The women urged prosecutors to investigate potential co-conspirators. I am unsure what this means. This was before the release of the Epstein files, and perhaps the women were looking for names of men to whom to address settlement demands. Perhaps this sounds callous, but there is little that people will not do for money. Apparently, a fund has been set up to identify Epstein victims. It is clear how this fund will allocate payouts if the evidence consists of claims. Now let's turn to Prince Andrew. If hundreds of girls are sex trafficked, supposedly each of too many men, how come Prince Andrew is the only man identified? Allegedly, Epstein's clients were the elite, but only one is identified. Moreover, only the evidence we have against Prince Andrew is that he paid to settle a claim, but people do this to avoid the cost and publicity of a lawsuit. In other words, many false claims are settled because it is the cheapest way out. All sorts of claims have been made about sex trafficking. Hillary Clinton is said to have raped underage boys. There are claims that babies were tortured, killed, and eaten. As no evidence for these claims exists in the millions of pages of released files, claims have arisen that the Justice Department is withholding millions of pages that have the evidence. At least one commentator has asked, where are the other 3 million files? In other words, the fact that there is no evidence of a massive sex trafficking and satanic operation would be considered as proof that there was one and the elites are being protected by withholding the evidence. If we look at this picture honestly, we have to ask ourselves if we are being gaslighted. The Salem witch trials lacked evidence, but they did not protect the innocent who were accused. How do we know that we are not experiencing another Salem witch trial? How do we know that the Epstein Saga is not concoction to divert focus from the probability that Epstein was running a blackmail operation for Israel, focused on elites who were in positions able to align American and European Middle East policy with Israel's? It is sufficiently likely to be the case to justify investigation whether the Epstein sex trafficking saga is a concoction to hide the fact that U.S. elites were blackmailed into supporting the destruction of Iraq, Libya, and Syria during the first quarter of the 21st century in order to advance the Zionist agenda of a greater Israel. Recently, it was announced that former Prince Andrew had been arrested on suspicion of misconduct. In the context of what has come before, suspicion of misconduct implies sex. But if we read on, we learn that Andrew was arrested on suspension that he might have shared with Epstein his work as a British trade negotiator. Again, the story smells of gaslighting. What is the alleged sex trafficker Epstein's interest in British trade negotiations? Note specifically that the British government has no evidence whatsoever that Andrew shared trade negotiation information with Epstein. The British government only has a suspicion. You're not supposed to arrest people on suspicion. You're supposed to have evidence that you can present to a judge and get a warrant. Perhaps British justice doesn't work the way it's supposed to work in a free country, and people's reputations can be ruined by being arrested on suspicion without evidence. Clearly, we are being gaslighted. The possibility that Israel can concoct such a cover story to hide its blackmail operation and have it accepted by the entirety of the Western media should scare us to death. Oh, yes. So, very interesting indeed what Mr. Paul Craig Roberts have to say about that. And how I'm looking at it right now, my friends, I do see this as a form of scapegoating from Prince Andrew. I am not keen with the Buckingham Palace by any means, the British monarch, or any form of governmental institution, because they all be devious, evil, corrupt, etc. But we always got to say, how accurate is the input? People demand things so damn quick. But one thing we know for sure, they're being disclosed for who they are, walking around stripped naked. It's called the Aquarian Age. The old water's pouring out. And the sunshine's coming in. People are seeing a lot bigger than what it is today. But always got to question these things. How accurate is the information? And I've been reading some of the emails. It's very disturbing indeed. I didn't watch any videos or anything like that, but I know some of my friends have. And I'm like, wow. Unbelievable. You know, a lot of sick bastards out there. Vampires, demoniacs. Oh, yeah. The voivods, you can say. Been a dangerous word for a long time. It's been happening for millenniums. Now more people are realizing the rulers, so-called rulers, are arrogantly insane and don't give a damn about any of us. They probably toss their own family members under the bus. I know one thing for sure. Their time is coming. It's not going to happen overnight, my friends. People post on Facebook about revolutions. Hey, the American Revolution, for an example, started in 1761. That's during the French Indian War. And things started to cook from Boston Massacre, then the wars and beyond. Then 1776, stuff accelerated. So always got to look at the bigger picture. Never demand too many things quickly. You want a revolution, you got to get involved. It doesn't mean you have to use it in a bellicose manner. Information is the way to go. Explain to me why the legacy media is going to hell in a handbasket. Because people can't stand their propaganda. Media mind controlled. So think for yourselves. See things a lot bigger than what they're trying to sell us. All right, I'm going to do one more here. Came to net. It was yesterday. FBI wins court ruling to keep Twitter payments secret. A federal judge just ruled that the public can't know exactly how much FBI paid Twitter during the years it was telling Twitter which Americans to censor. This is written by Cindy Harper. A federal judge has handed the FBI a win in its attempt to keep secrets. On February 4th, Chief Judge James Bowlesberg ruled that the Bureau can keep secret the precise amounts it paid Twitter between 2016 and 2023 for complying with legal process requests. Judge James Bowlesberg, go figure. Judicial Watch, which had sued under the Freedom of Information Act, walked away empty-handed. There's an opinion on this piece, too. You can read it for yourselves. You may remember our early reporting on how the FBI was paying Twitter. The payments totaled at least $3.4 million between October 2019 and February 2021 alone. That figure emerged from the Twitter files released in December 2022. The FBI has never confirmed it. Neither has Twitter. And now, thanks to Bowlesberg's ruling, the quarterly breakdown that would show exactly when the money flowed and how much stays buried. One moment. You okay? All right. Hold on there. Sorry about that. Ooh, okay. I'm coming down here. What were the payments for? Officially reimbursements. Federal law requires agencies to compensate companies for the cost of responding to subpoenas, search warrants, and national security legal demands. The FBI was sending those requests to Twitter in volume. During the period leading up to the 2020 election, the FBI's Elvis Chan and colleagues were holding weekly meetings with Twitter staff about misinformation. They were flagging accounts, they were flagging content, and they were being reimbursed for the legal paperwork that accompanied all of it. The Trump DOJ, through U.S. Attorney Janine Pirio's office, filed for summary judgment in December 2025, arguing that payment amounts are shielded by FOIA Exemption 7E. That exemption covers law enforcement techniques and procedures whose disclosure could help criminals evade detection. Bowlesberg agreed, accepting the government argument that quarterly payment figures combined with Twitter's own transparency reports could let bad actors reverse engineer where the FBI is looking and where it isn't. The logic is that the FBI paid Twitter significantly more in Q4 2021 than Q3. That you might infer the Bureau ramped up surveillance following a specific event. A foreign intelligence service could check whether its operation triggered a spike. Criminals could compare the FBI's Twitter payments with what it pays other platforms and migrate accordingly. The government's declarations assert this. Bowlesberg referred to them as courts in national security cases routinely do. The mosaic theory the FBI invoked is real, and courts have repeatedly credited it. The problem isn't the legal framework. The problem is what it conceals. The FBI was not simply investigating criminals during this period. It was meeting weekly with a private company's context moderation team, flagging accounts on vaccine skeptics, lab leak researchers, people who questioned the 2020 election, and journalists covering Hunter Biden. The $3.4 million in payments flowed that the same relationship, the legal process reimbursements, and the content flagging meetings ran in parallel, conducted by the same FBI personnel aimed at the same platform during the same politically charged window before a presidential election. The quarterly payment breakdown requested would have shown at a minimum whether FBI engagement with Twitter spiked during electorally sensitive periods. It would have let the public cross-reference the payment timeline with no known events, the weekly misinformation meetings, the account flagging, the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story. That is exactly the kind of accountability information FOIA exists to surface. Instead, Bowsberg ruled that the numbers stay hidden because releasing them might tell a foreign spy whether the FBI noticed something. The court gave meaningful weight to the government's national security declarations as FOIA doctrine requires, and no weight at all to the public's interest in understanding how the FBI was spending money on the platform it was simultaneously using as a content moderation partner. Judicial Watch has pointed out that Twitter's semi-annual transparency reports already publish aggregate data on law enforcement requests. Bowsberg acknowledged this, but found that quarterly FBI-specific figures would add enough granularity, tongue-tied there, to create a meaningful risk. The detail that remains secret is not how the FBI monitors threats online. Everyone knows that. What remains secret is the scale and timing of the FBI's financial relationship and with the platform it was also directing to censor Americans. The ruling does not find that the FBI acted properly during this period. It does not address weekly misinformation meetings or the account flagging. It simply holds that the payment figures are protected law enforcement information and that Judicial Watch gets nothing. Bowsberg wrote that disclosure could risk circumvention of the law. The circumvention that, when unexamined, in his opinion, is the one way they may have already occurred. Well, what can we say, right? Your tax dollars at work, but we can't tell you. Yep, that's called privileges, right? Some form of corruption indeed. But Bowsberg and Pirro, wow. The Wonder Twins. And what happens when you don't trust the government, folks? They come into your place and, hey, we're going to tell you how to wipe your butt. Here's the money. Okay, master, that's great. Hey, as I recall, Twitter stocks were held in a handbasket a while back. So it's a real damn shame. I call it treason. And I don't give a damn what people think. This is why we should never, ever trust the government. It's in the Americans' DNA. And all you folks that are naturalized, you better get with the program as well. And all those undereducated folks that were, quote, born here, I got to trim the same way. Don't be a bunch of delusional clowns. Question everything. Observe responsibly. Never trust the government, regardless who's in there. All right? Well, that's how I got to look at these things. I renounce the decision. I hope they appeal it. That's my intake on this. That will be it. I thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share this right your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. You can hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. If you want to donate, go to PayPal.me or Cash App /LokiLuck3. If you want to support Free West Media and reclaim the net, that'd be great. Information is out there. We're not here to tell you how to think, but inspire you to see things a lot bigger than what it is. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. May your guardian spirits be with you.